you come, wash away the rain, black all the sun. Won't you come, won't you come, won't you come? Stood a rain, cold and damp, still the warm wind, tired friend. Times are gone for honest men, and sometimes far too long for snakes. In my shoes, walking sleep. In my youth, I pray to keep heaven send hell away. No one sees.
Creep on in, on in, on in. Creep on in.
Can you see the top of that? Looks like it's been spray painted with some kind of sparkle material. And look at the top of these rocks.
It's layered up. It's fiberboard. It's fiberboard. It's not rock. That's fiber.
It's not even rock, guys. It's what they made it out of.
That's what these are all made out of. Not a thing. It doesn't have the right sound. Hear it? That sounds like paper here. That's not rock.
All these rocks are dusted with it. See this here? All this glitter. I'm able to rip this rock apart. It's made out of like fiberboard. If I'm able to do that with this rock, then maybe Mount Rushmore is fake. Granite doesn't do that.
You guys ever heard about the indigenous castles of America? All of the historians state that our castles was turned into prisons and colleges, with the Alcatraz prison being the most famous one. This is where Queen Khalifa Castle sat. Okay, let's get into how we lost our homes that we built. We've been fighting with the invaders since 1492, but I want to talk about the recent wars. We had our own military over here in America. This is what they don't tell you. A lot of us had to leave our family and children and go fight in this war. With our last stronghold being down in Florida, we had tribes come from all over the world to help us. This is why so-called slavery was still going on in the South in civil wars. The invaders was organized in the North. The invaders from the South would tell the invaders up North that the war is over and that they won. But the whole time, we were still fighting each other. The war was never over, but they started rounding us up, holding us as hostages. Just for the record, we was never slaves. We was POWs. And this is when they started to move inside of our castles. And they seen that we had dungeons on the bottom level. So instead of them building their own jails, they just threw us inside of our ancestors' house. And usually, the warden of the prison would stay up on the top level. These castles are ancient, and it belongs to our ancestors. They don't have enough knowledge or creativity to build something like this. Now, the newer box rectangle buildings, these is considered their newer prisons. But the castles belongs to us, the children of the sun. Peace and ashe.
We cut off from the fifth dimension because the fifth dimension is the magnetosphere. So the magnetosphere is where you pull in your magic. When you look at the prefix of the word magic and magnetism, magnetosphere, right? Your magic is being facilitated by the magnetosphere because the magnetosphere is where the etheric energy comes into, where you tap into the God frequency, the spirit of Melchizedek. So your magic is facilitated by telepathy, psychometry, clairvoyance, intuition. These are your higher abilities to where you reach the state of godhood, but we've been spiritually cut off. So that's why when you hear people say shit like, oh, we haven't got our powers, that's because you're encapsulated inside of a dome. When you watch the movie Meteor Man, when he merged in with that green Ethereum energy, that's when he was able to tap into his power. Like I said, you've been spiritually cut off by the fermented dome. The dome is basically keeping you the soul encapsulated to where you don't reach the state of godhood.
Malachi Z. York, revered as Murdoch and by his galactic name Yanun, stands as an ancient elder whose purpose transcends mere worship. His earthly sojourn carries the profound mission of elevating humanity, urging us to remember that our existence extends far beyond the terrestrial realm. We, as galactic beings, are intricately tied to the cosmos and more than just earthly entities. Dr. York's arrival is not a call for reverence, but a catalyst for our ascension to higher levels of consciousness. His transformative work seeks to free us from the confines of our own minds, breaking the chains of mental imprisonment. In acknowledging his efforts, we offer respect for the pivotal role he played in igniting the spark of the green light, a guiding force leading us back to the stars. Within his teachings, Dr. York imparts the wisdom that our connection to the stars is a profound and intrinsic part of our being. As woolly-haired beings, we embody the essence of the people of the sun, attuned to the ninth power of nine ether. Our journey involves not only understanding but actively cultivating a harmonious relationship with cosmic energies. This connection acts as a transformative force, allowing us to navigate the celestial tapestry and embrace our place within the vastness of the universe. Therefore, in acknowledging Dr. York's teachings, we recognize not only our earthly existence but our cosmic heritage. As we strive to live under the sun and embrace the radiant energies that bind us to the stars.
Coming out of Hillary Clinton's mouth.
Look at your beloved candidates. They're nothing but hideous space reptiles.
New York is the newest state to set up a commission to consider reparations for slavery.
More than 400 years ago, the first slaves were violently kidnapped, stolen from their families and their homes. They were brought in chains to the shores of what eventually becomes the United States of America. And these enslaved peoples literally built much of our nation with their sweat, their blood, their sorrow. Right over here, we have a statue of Thomas Jefferson. He wrote the Declaration of Independence. At the same time, he owned over 600 slaves. New York has long been the center of American commerce, Wall Street, banking, shipping, insurance, the economic engines of our entire country. And they thrived because they could trade in commodities that were produced by slaves. And there was a slave market. Yes, here in New York, there was a slave market where people bought and sold other human beings with callous disregard. And it happened right on Wall Street for more than a century. And even though it officially closed when slavery was abolished in New York in 1827, our state still remained a dominant player in the illegal slave trade. The practice continued, and our financial and business institutions prospered. In a few minutes, I'll sign a bill authorizing the creation of a community commission to study the history of slavery in New York State. We'll study various forms of reparations and how we can help right the wrongs of the past.
If they truly did pay out reparations, we should know that this would be an automatic civil war, because the descendants of the slave owners don't truly believe that they're responsible and that they benefited from slavery, okay? And this would also mean that the descendants of the slaves would have more money than them, and that will cause a civil war, okay? But what is reparations? It's the making of amends for a wrong one has done by paying money to or otherwise helping those who have been wronged. Now, what is money by definition? A current medium of exchange in the form of coins and banknotes. Coins and banknotes, okay? So reparations does not fit in prophecy. Even if they were given land, that don't fit within prophecy, because one group, the 2/3, want reparations, fake money, and land, and they want to stay here. A lot of them believe that they are aboriginal to this land, but we know prophecy says a group came over on slave ship. A group went into captivity by means of slave ships. Okay, so we're speaking of those who came over here on slave ships. True repair is to be redeemed, be delivered back to the land that they came from, and to leave with great substance. What is substance? Substance meaning tangible items such as gold, silver, livestock, great possessions. Okay, and the 1/3 wants to be delivered out of this land and taken back to where they came from. That's the difference between the 1/3 and the 2/3.
If you want to talk about indigenous people in America or Native Americans, they always dealt with extraterrestrials. They called them the Star People. And yes, they were black. This is where the word Indian comes from the Latin word indigo, okay, which means blue-black. It's a skin color, okay? And so the Indians that you see today are what you call $5 Indians, okay, which are Caucasians, actually white people, okay? And go look up the Dow's Commission, go read the Dow's rolls. Back in the day, white people was allowing other white people to sign the Dow's rolls, saying that they was Native Americans in exchange for benefits and assistance from the government. So all these Indians that own these casinos and own the land, and they got straight hair, they look like goddamn Mexicans and Chinese people and white people, those are what you call $5 Indians. Those are descendants of the people who actually took the land, and they acted like they was the people who the land got took from.
Nobody does it better. Nobody does it better. They can come closer than close, yeah. Original they never will be.
Hold up. This is the Great Mud Flood of 1892? Dude, check these buildings out. This is in New York. 1892. I mean, you. $1892. We got that nice building, and they're on horse buggies.
is Mercury in retrograde, and my friend Nelson Jenks also noticed the planet as it was moving into the field of view over here on the SOHO LASCO C3 instrument that monitors the sun. This is the wide field of view, and every once in a while it'll pick up asteroids and comets and even Mercury in retrograde, and it will appear to move in over here on the left-hand side of the sun, but it's actually going around the sun just very close, and it's just a weird angle from our perspective over here on planet Earth. And I'd like to give it...
Stay still. What the... What is today's date? October 2nd, 2023? There it goes again in that ball. Don't be scared. Should we call the police? No, to let them know what's out there.
And as you just heard the gentleman say, should we call the police? He was that mystified at what he was looking at in the nighttime sky above Mineral Wells, and it wasn't behaving like a typical airplane. This thing was hovering in place, and it had a row of lights across the center of it that were on primarily all the time. They weren't blinking. They didn't change color. Looked like some sort of a mysterious craft in the nighttime sky. Whether it was triangle-shaped or not, it's difficult to tell, but it was definitely a large, silent, mysterious craft above Mineral Wells. I want to take you guys now.
Giant historical buildings and ancient lies, part 2. Let's go.
The St. Mary's Orphan Asylum, located in Galveston, Texas, where they tell us that this one is haunted. Now, I've talked about hauntings before briefly. I'm not going to say that there aren't any hauntings, but when it comes to these old world buildings, I think it was a tactic to keep people away from them. Just say that they're haunted, and it scares everyone away from investigating. So we have yet again another orphan operation going on in the mid-1800s. And I'm just going to let you know that this is going on and on and on. There were so many orphan operations going on in the mid-1800s because this was how they were repopulating these cities. So where were all these kids' parents? Is this where a lot of our families originated from? Is this why the family trees in the USA almost all end around the same time period? We are told hundreds of fire stories through the first 52 episodes. We know that that is the key, and the nod, that it's a building that was constructed by the previous civilization. The St. Mary's Orphan Asylum. For anyone wondering where the parents of these orphans were, you might want to check the other asylum, the insane asylum, because they were not going along with the reset. Here's a graph showing that the insane asylums are disappearing over time, and I wonder why. Good thing they cared so much about us in 1955 and 1965, because surely that was the fix. Oh, it wasn't? And then a fire had devastated the St. Mary's Orphan Asylum in 1875. If anyone is still on the fence, there is room over here to get off the fence. And honestly, who would want to sit on top of a fence anyway? So we have Ohio, Baltimore, Texas. We have all these towns and cities being repopulated. Brand new people, brand new social structures, brand new mindsets, and resetting what people are taught. This all happened around 150 years ago. So this is all very new. This isn't thousands of years ago. Then we have another very interesting aspect of this in Germany. During this same exact time period, and remember, we also have good old Joseph from earlier, also from Germany. So here we are given the Kinder Bewahrenstalt. And if I pronounce that wrong, I hope you all understand. This is where we are given kindergarten, another tactic to teach children the brand new social structures. What better way to trick people? Take them out of their family's home and tell them what to think, and then test them on it. Failing the test will then lower your self-esteem, putting a social pressure on children to agree with this new way of thought, or they will be called dumb and get an F. This is an operation. It's all connected, and it's designed to enslave the world's population. Year after year, we are all taught a false narrative. We've all been brainwashed into thinking that you are either smart or dumb based on a curriculum that holds zero value in the real world. Now, who knows if this Frederick Froebel was even a real character, but they do admit that kindergarten starts in Germany around the exact same time period that we're talking about, the mid-1800s. So I wanted to tie it all in with the rest of the world. This is a worldwide operation. This is not just the USA. We have a lot of things in the USA being controlled through Germany during this time period, especially the education aspect of it. And I want to point out that yes, we have borders and division now. We have so many countries in the world, and everyone is separated. And you're unable to travel to other lands unless you have a piece of paper that is registered and checked at the checkpoints. But who's to say that there even was a border in the previous civilization? Were there so-called elected leaders controlling everyone, deciding what we can and cannot do? Could they have had a truly free life where they were able to travel wherever they want freely and not feel like they're invading someone else's territory? I would say, in my opinion, this was the world that was here before the reset. And something happened where this past civilization was wiped out and their technology was stolen by a group. And some of it is now being sold back to us strategically. The good stuff is kept to control the masses and used for their benefit. Before we get into the final part that's going to expose a lot, I want to thank all the badge members and the Patreons and subscribers. You are all helping this channel out a lot and keeping it going. We have a lot more to share. I look forward to every Saturday hearing all of your thoughts in the comments below. Here we have the St. Joseph's Orphanage, located in Vermont. And if you want to know where they get these horror movies, where they show a nun doing crazy things, there's a dark truth to it. These movies don't come out of nowhere. They come from the last 150 years. Here in Vermont, in the mid-1800s again, thousands of children came through its doors. If you want to demoralize, control, and manipulate a new population, make them completely forget their past and never question what they're told, you would make them suffer. You would take them from their families, and you would ruin their mind at a young age. This is exactly what happened in the wars, where all men between ages 21 to 45 were required to fight in World War I, which was in 1914 to 1919. 2.8 million men drafted, 2 million volunteered, where you get the term shell-shocked or mentally confused. You can look at the shell-shock videos on X. I'm not going to show that here. But talk about destroying minds and making sure that the population is unable to focus on finding the truth. So we have millions of people in wars. We have more than 5 million American children passing through the orphanage system in the 1900s alone, hitting its peak in the early 1900s. So it began in the mid-1800s and really ramped up to populate these cities. The American orphanage system included more than 1,600 institutions, partly supported by public funding, but usually run by religious orders, exactly like we talked about in the beginning of this episode. So I think we have now a very solid understanding how the USA was repopulated, how this operation took place, and exactly when it took place. I think that we now have factual evidence as to when this reset really happened.